Hi, I'm Ian, and Super Mario Bros. 2. The last time I talked about a Mario game was 11 months ago. The first Mario game was really popular in Japan, even spawning its own anime. Maybe I'll talk about that another day. Anyways, the year after the first Mario released, a sequel was made, and I wouldn't really call it bad. It's just too similar to the first one and adds a massive difficulty spike. I mean, I'm also not defending the game, like the first level screws you over with the poison mushroom. Also, like, everything in this game has eyes. Overall, this game is a lot like Versus Super Mario Bros. Versus Super Mario was an arcade version of the first game, which ramps up the difficulty. Actually, elements of Mario 2 are in Versus Super Mario. You see, having just a difficult version of Mario Bros. Is fine, but having your sequel to a beloved game, and it just being a very difficult version of your first game, with some different level designs, is really uncool. Anyways, there's not really much to say about what's actually in the game itself, other than the fact that it is unfair and really poorly designed. So that was Super Mario Bros. 2. But that was only part of the story. You see, Nintendo of America didn't like the Super Mario Bros. 2 that was released over in Japan. So what they did was they reskinned another game. Fuji TV is a longtime network in Japan, running since the late 50s. Nintendo collaborated with them on numerous occasions during the 80s, the first of which was basically a contest for a lyrical version of the Super Mario Bros. Theme titled Go Go Mario, and it's really good. They would then partner with Fuji TV again, and this time with the radio program All Night Nippon, since that program was turning 20 years old. They knew that they wanted to do something big, so they decided to work with Nintendo to basically make a hack of Super Mario Bros. It's mostly just some tweaks, like how some of the enemies are replaced with the characters on the radio show. Also, most of the levels take place at night, since that's when the show airs. I mean, the name is All Night Nippon. Also, starting at 5-3, the game starts using some levels from Super Mario Bros. 2. Overall, in my opinion, I think this is one of the most fascinating things to come out of the entire Mario series. And of course, I have to bring up Doki Doki Panic. Doki Doki Panic was easily the biggest thing that Nintendo did with Fuji TV. Basically, they made this game with Fuji TV, and that's all fine and dandy, but what's important in this story is Mario 2. Like I mentioned earlier, in the deer hunting, bass fishing, barbecuing country that is the USA, my home country, Nintendo didn't like how unfair and poorly designed Mario 2 was, that they decided to make their own. Kinda. You remember how I was just talking about Doki Doki Panic? Well, that game didn't release in America, so they decided to reskin that game to have Mario characters instead of the ones in Doki Doki Panic. And that's what led to, in my opinion, the real Super Mario Bros. 2. Mario 2 was released in 1988 for the NES. Also, I'd just like to give a somewhat update since I last talked about Mario. I got an actual NES cartridge. I don't have the system, but I still think it's cool. It's a multi-pack featuring Mario and Duck Hunt, as well as world-class track meet. Anyways, Mario 2 was a smash hit, selling over 7 million copies. In this game, you're able to play as 4 different characters, Mario, Luigi, Toad, and Peach, which I kinda like because they have special abilities, and this was carried over in Mario 3D 25 years later. Once you're actually in the levels, you're able to grab vegetables out of the ground, and trust me, I've dealt with this stuff before. Crikey, I've been looking for a vegetable out of the wild plains of Australia. Look, found one! Shrimp on the barbie, I caught the vegetable. So this game kinda controls like a Mario game, but kids in the late 80s probably didn't notice. It's a bit slippery at times, but I really like how this game controls. Since they only reskin the main 4 characters, all the enemies are brand new. Bowser isn't even in this game, instead it's the original boss from the original game, Wart. Although he is kinda similar to Bowser, I wouldn't even blame a kid from the late 80s to the early 90s for thinking that this was Bowser, at least from inside the game. He looks pretty similar to Bowser. That's probably why they didn't change him, or they just didn't care. Also, since this wasn't originally a Mario game, you can't just normally kill enemies by jumping on them. You have to throw them or throw a vegetable at them. I also just realized the beats in Mario Odyssey are probably based off this game, just something I thought about. Also, I'm pretty sure the radish is not beets. Another thing about some of the enemies is that they would become mainstay Mario characters. Enemies like Shy Guys, Birdos, Mauser are all staples to the Mario series to this day. Now this is probably my hottest take ever, but I think I like Mario 2 more than Mario 3. Let me explain. Mario 3's controls are decent, but they're not as good as 2's in my opinion. Also, this game sometimes falls into the extremely hard NES game cliche. I don't think Mario 3 is a bad game, I just think it has a lot of flaws. In the end of Mario 2, though, you find out that the whole game was just a dream, and that's the excuse for how weird and different this game is. So that was Super Mario Bros. 2. Personally, this might be my favorite NES Mario game. It does so much right. It's fun and enjoyable, and most importantly, this game is really weird.